guys, I actually wasn't planning on filming this video today. There goes my cardigan, excuse me. But I did watch Cloverfield Paradox last night, and I had some thoughts, so I thought I would film it. I actually wanted this month to be all about women in horror, because it is Women in Horror Month, in case you didn't know. I did tweet about it. I will post my favorite horror movies directed by lovely ladies over here, in case you were curious, and don't follow me on Twitter, which you should. Every YouTuber's got to have a little self-promo in there sometimes, right? Anyway, so I wanted to primarily review movies this month that were directed by women or had strong female women in it that passed the Bechdel test, which if you don't know what that is, look it up. But I guess that's not going to happen. Although I was promised a strong female in this movie, I don't think we really got that. But I'll get into that in a second. So on Super Bowl Sunday, this last Sunday, they being the movie makers, I guess, announced that they were going to be dropping the next Cloverfield movie onto Netflix that night after the Super Bowl. And the internet kind of exploded. My friends and I kind of exploded. It was very exciting. I was excited, right? Now, as far as I knew, it was going to be called God Particle, from what they had said back in the day, and it was going to be a prequel to all the Cloverfield movies. Oh, I said all, the 2 Cloverfield movies, which I love the franchise, and I loved it even more after 10 Cloverfield Lane. That was by far the best Cloverfield movie I've ever seen, still to this day is. I loved that movie. It was so good. They had really amazing actors in it. I love John Goodman. So I was pumped because they kind of, you know, the level of success and quality went up with the sequel of 10 Cloverfield Lane, right? Because the first one, let's be real, there were some bigger actors in it, kind of, but not really, not like John Goodman, you know? And although that movie was great and I loved it, it was not as good, in my opinion, as 10 Cloverfield Lane. So I'm like, cool, if we're on this trajectory, it's gonna be phenomenal, right? The third movie's gonna be the best. It's a sequel or a prequel, so it's gonna explain everything. It's gonna be good. Now, first let me say, my boyfriend kind of nailed it when he said, I wish it wasn't a Cloverfield movie, because I think standing alone, it would have been a really cool movie with a cool twist at the end. As a Cloverfield movie, it didn't make any sense timeline-wise. Starting out, I went into it with really low expectations, even though I just said I was really hyped about it. That was before I saw everyone pooping on it, right? Everyone started to say how bad it was, and they were like, I have so many questions. Philip DeFranco said no, and said to go in with low expectations if you're a fan of Cloverfield. So I was like, cool, I'm just gonna, you know, that's really disappointing so far. I'm gonna have an open mind, and I'm gonna go in with it thinking that it's going to be bad, right? Because if anything, I'm just pleasantly surprised. And I actually was. For the first like half of the movie, I was like, cool, I actually really like where this is going. It had a few comedy bits in it that weren't terrible, and I liked the story. However, it's been done, let's be real. But lately, my new favorite genre is space movies. I watched Interstellar and it changed my life, right? I've always loved space, and not because it's like a new thing and everyone's like super trendy into the moon and like spiritual things like that. No, I just always loved space. I love it. I love the concept. It's horrifying. And because of that, I love space movies. I'm obsessed with them, and I'm trying to find as many as I can to watch. That's all I've been watching lately. I've watched so many. So I was really excited that this was set in space, and then the plot kind of took off and continued, and I realized we're doing every single space trope that there is. And I'm really thankful that I watched as many space films as I did before watching this, so I knew what the tropes were going to be. So to me, it didn't answer any questions, okay? And I'll explain why exactly when I do spoilers and talk about the ending of the film, because obviously there was like supposed to be answers at the end of the film and like a wow moment, and I didn't get that, but okay. Anyway, but we have all of the stereotypical space movie things. We got blinking lights, we have an explosion on one end, and someone's gotta be the hero and go outside and fix it, and I still felt like there had to be a romance between the women in the movie, and there's only one woman in it that didn't really have a romance with everyone, and it really bugs me when that happens, when there can't just be like females working with males without there being like a little crush on them, you know? And I know that's probably super feminist of me, but I just think that women are able to work with men, whether they be in space or not, without developing feelings. I'm talking about 2 particular characters in this movie, but then of course we have I mean, the romance with the main character isn't that strong. Like, obviously she has a husband, and then there's her kids' story and stuff like that. So it wasn't so like... Okay, now I'm going to get into the actual story and like the ending of the film and what it was trying to explain to us and why I don't think it worked. So if you haven't seen it yet and don't want to have it spoiled or anything, then don't watch the rest of this video. So the main storyline, and I mean, they kind of gave it away in the first like 10-20 minutes of the movie when someone was like, if you shoot this power bursts or whatever, it could open other dimensions and leak monsters and demons and things like that. And he sounded like a conspiracy theorist on the news, kind of, and so they were like, so you're telling me they're gonna release demons by shooting out this energy thing? He's like, I wish I could be wrong on this. And I like immediately looked at my boyfriend like, well, we know what it shoots out. So they weren't like sneaky in that way. And then of course when they did do the energy boost whatever thing that they're trying to do to save the planet, they switched dimensions. And I liked that actually at first. I thought it was really cool. The woman ends up switching dimensions, or they end up in her dimension, and she ends up in this wall with all these wires going through her, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so disturbing and cool, and I hope they continue that. And then they don't. So I was kind of disappointed, because the next time we get something scary, it's something popping out of someone, right? Of course, there's like a moment and I'm like, I bet you they're gonna do an alien move here, and they're gonna have something shoot out of his stomach or his mouth. So I was kind of annoyed at that point. I was like, oh, we're doing that kind of space movie. Okay, I thought it was gonna be original with the dimension switching and like her and the wires, and it was gonna be like gory and weird and disturbing. But then the comedy came in and it was just a little off for me. So then we get to the point where, I mean, it's just like a lot of plot, and then she realizes in this dimension her children are still alive and she wants to go back to that Earth. And in my mind I'm like, but the other you is on the Earth, so that's not going to do anything for you, but sure. And then she was like, but I actually have to save them because I know her. She's going to do what I did and end up killing her children with this power cell thing. There's bits and pieces that flash back to her husband on Earth, and they're having an apocalypse, and she ends up being the lone survivor and is like, oh no, there's one other guy. And she's like shooting down into the Earth, right, in her little pod. And her husband's like, don't, you know, have them stay there. Like, don't let them come back. Like, tell them not to come back. Like, do they even know what's here, what's going on right now? And then, of course, it flashes to, I'm pretty sure she gets eaten because they're like falling from the sky. And then there's like the giant alien that we see in the first movie pop out of the ocean, and I'm pretty sure eats them. The reason why I'm confused mostly with this movie, so there's an apocalypse happening, they release these aliens onto the Earth, but the timeline seems weird with the other two movies if we look at those. So in the first movie, there's, you know, having a good time, no apocalypse is happening. And I guess that movie takes place in the very beginning. No, it's not even, because they're not running out of resources. See, that's the thing. Even before they open the other dimension, they're not running out of resources. So is that the world, like, are we flipping dimensions with the other movies as well? Is that why they're not on track with the right timeline with the Earth of the people? I'm not making any sense. I'm getting confused. Hold on. You know what I'm saying though? It's like, what dimension did the other two movies take place in? Because they're related, right? Like, everything's related. But I think it's kind of a cop-out to be like, oh, well, the reason why the timeline doesn't add up is because they were in the other Earth, like on the other Earth in the other dimension, right? So because there's no apocalypse happening, they're not having an energy problem or resource problem in the first movie. When the aliens hit, it's clear that that is not the same Earth where the beginning of this movie takes place. So that has to be the Earth of the new dimension that pops up from, I don't even know. I think they made it too convoluted and too weird and too complicated with the dimensions, and like, it didn't really answer many questions, because you really have to think about it to like realize, oh, it's actually another dimension. It has to be, and I'm just reaching. I don't even know if that's what it really is. So I feel like I'm talking nonsense right now, but basically I just was really confused after. But don't get me wrong, there were really cool parts of the movie, and I, like my boyfriend said, I just wish it wasn't really a Cloverfield movie, because standalone, I think it would have been much better. I wouldn't be expecting things to happen because I've seen the other two movies, so I'm like predicting what is actually going to take place, what's going to happen, things like that. And then people have been talking about this whole phenomenon of Netflix adding movies straight to their website, and granted they've had really, really awesome hits like Gerald's Game. That one was amazing. And I was really expecting the next Cloverfield to be in theaters, so the fact they released it on Netflix, I don't really know what their purpose was in doing that, but how do you feel about that? With them just taking specific movies that should probably be in theaters and putting them just on Netflix. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on Cloverfield Paradox and, you know, the straight to Netflix idea and things like that. Leave all that down below. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.